the learning outcome. At the end of the course, the students shall be able to understand the difference between the traditional form of government and the concept of governance. So definitely corporate governance, the collaborative way how we have been working is a very important chapter which will help us to understand the subject in depth. This gender equality is definitely going to lay a strong foundation of empowering women and making India a stronger nation altogether. Good morning and welcome to the introduction session for good governance in India in the 4th Sem B.Ca, where we are going to talk about the subject and the syllabus, which is very, very important. And this is an open elective, a common paper that is being taken across. So let's just move forward in terms of understanding what is the syllabus, what is this particular elective got for us. Let's go further. The agenda today is the prerequisites for this particular subject, the learning outcome. We are going to talk about the units, the internals, and then we are going to talk about the exam pattern. Moving forward, let's say what is the prerequisite that you need to learn here. We need to understand, get the interest about learning what is governance and the policies that are vested in the Indian system, the Indian political system altogether. This is a very, very interesting elective. Why? Because this is not just going to talk about politics, it's going to talk about the policies that India needs to determine, that India needs to build up for the future generation to come up, and how we are going to build in a better governance system rather than just depending on the government. So moving forward, let's try to understand the learning outcome. At the end of the course, the students shall be able to understand the difference between the traditional form of government and the concept of governance. As I've told you, right from 1947, the time when we got independence, till 2023, we are still in the conceptual format of understanding that government will do everything. But from 2014 onwards, we have slightly changed the module where we have been speaking about more governance and less of government. Followed by, we are also talking about the perspective modes, where we are talking about the various examples that are being drawn all together from the central and the state governments. So you will be able to understand and appreciate those models. Following which, the participation of citizens in the day-to-day administration. So we want everybody to be a part of the system and everybody to be a part of the decision-making activity that's going on a daily basis. Followed by which, let's get on to the chapters that we are going to see in this particular introductions to the syllabus altogether. Starting with the characteristics, elements, growth, and the need for good governance. In the first unit, you are going to understand the meaning of governance. You're going to understand the elements. You're going to see what are all the factors that are involved in terms of the growth and the need for the good governance factor. Followed by the theories and the concept of government, public choice and public value, a good governance and globalization, which is very, very important. Why? Because in this chapter, we are going to go in depth of understanding the governance and globalization model, which is going to be the need of the hour. And that's how the most of the developed countries are trying to rephrase themselves and come across in a better manner. Followed by corporate governance, networking and collaborative governance. This is very much needed. Why? Because people have initially understood governance only from the corporate side. And that's how it started also way back with the the Kumaramangalam Birla Committee, which was formed in terms of starting up of the corporate governance network, which was later instilled in most of the leading corporate houses. Starting from there, we have tried to adopt the model in terms of running the governance system even in the modern political arenas altogether. So that's where I see that corporate governance has laid the foundation for the governance model to set up in the Indian administrative system. So definitely corporate governance, the collaborative way how we have been working, is a very important chapter which will help us to understand the subject in depth. Followed by the Unit 2, Chapter 4, the Public Service Guarantee Act, which is very, very important. The 4 Public Service Guarantee Act, which have been starting about. The Provisions and Impact, Right to Information Act, characteristics and important. RTI has become a very, very sensitive as well as sensational topic. Let me just put the word in that way to you. Why? Because one side, RTI has enabled the citizens to seek information at their will and wish. The other side, if you look at the RTI altogether, that has also created sensational news everywhere, sensitive and handling everywhere, where people have started looking into information in each and every activity. So today people think that RTI, rather than more than a right, it has become something like a mandatory tool through which you can dig in information about any system, about any process or any government altogether. So this is enabling the public to understand their surroundings, environment, people, process and technology very well. So it's a very, very important chapter that's going to be quite interesting, and we need to know how RTI actually works in our system. Followed by e-governance, which is no doubt about it, with the digital concept and the information technology concept springing in from every front of the corporate as well as in the public life. And all of us know that with AI, ML, every factor is coming inside, artificial intelligence, machine language, the data analytics. So everywhere you see that the flavor of digital rush or the digital push has gone to a very great extent in every format of government. So e-governance is also one of the most important modules that we would be learning in. The nature of e-governance is not just about just putting the technology in place, but about the accessibility, acceptability, and the adorability in terms of appreciating the technology, taking it forward and making it easy for the people to understand the system. So this is also going to be a very interesting chapter for us. Followed by the chapter 6, where we're going to talk about Citizens Charter, the Digital India, gender and governance. This might look like a sensitive topic, but nevertheless, Digital India and Citizens Charters has always been the preamble, or rather the most profound topics, the main key areas which have been going on from the last 10 years. Why? Because somewhere down the lane, we want India to be an example for the IT industry altogether. We want India to become the breeding ground of information technology. We want India to become a more of a symbol in terms of the global language of technology. So that's where we are seeing that the Digital India push is making a sensational news everywhere. We don't want India just to have computers and laptops, but we want India to enable technology that can be accessed across the globe. So that's why I feel Digital India is becoming a very important topic. Followed by gender and governance. After the 2014 government taking up and the central government changing altogether, we have made it an agenda very clearly that include women in every activity, empower women in every single sector of life. And that's how today, when you see that women are taking up the key positions in public as well as in private organizations, that is one example where I would like to quote upon saying that how India is transforming itself, becoming a gender neutral country rather than becoming a gender biased country. So somewhere down the lane, this gender equality is definitely going to lay a strong foundation of empowering women and making India a stronger nation altogether. Followed by the chapter 7, where we're going to talk about the various projects starting from the Sakala, Bhumi, Swayam, and e-Kisan and e-Code. These are all projects which have been initiated with a greater purpose, and the purpose of these projects are the core sectors that we are going to look into it. Somewhere down the lane, we have understood that if we want to bring in change, it cannot happen through theory. It has to happen only through action. So the projects are intended to create much more importance or growth in terms of the ability to bring in certain new projects, new aspects altogether. So this is also included as a part of our syllabus. And the chapter 8, where we're going to talk about people's participation in the role of civil society. Yes, very much needed in the modern days. The ethics and accountability in governance, which is indeed a most important thing that I can ever talk about in terms of how governance comes into a model here. The last one would be the chapter 9, where we're going to talk about the challenges in governance of India. Of course, India is facing a lot of challenge in terms of how this business can happen, how we can bring in the new rules and policies. But nevertheless, any good thing will always face hurdles and obstacles before it gets implemented. So we will be studying about the challenges that are involved in the system. The most important and interesting part that any student would love to ask me is about the internals. So you will be having 3 internals. Unit 1 will be there for the first internals, Unit 2 and Unit 3 that's going to come up for the internals. Each internals would be for 30 marks, and this will be awarded on the average basis. I want each one of you to understand it very clearly. It will be internal 1, that is A plus B plus C, and it will not be best of 3. So it is something like all the 3 internals you have to attend. You will be writing it for 30 marks and you will be scored on your performance. The average of all the 3 internals will be put together to get your final internal marks. So I would request all my students to attend the internals sincerely and perform well to the best level as far as possible. Followed by the question paper pattern. This is a full-fledged paper for 60 marks. We're going to write it for 2 hours. So you will have a part A for 10 marks, part B for 30, part C for 20, and this will be a total. You'll be getting it for 60 marks. Nevertheless, don't worry too much about this paper, because this is a very interesting paper where you can bring your ideas, your thought process, you can write on your own. There are a lot of materials available in the net, in the web, as well as in terms of books and publications and articles. So you would be able to write a lot of examples, bring in your ideas, your process and things, and you will be definitely able to score very well in this subject. Followed by the books for reference, I would like to quote some of the books that are available in the market. Some of the best books, starting from Kanak Kanti Bagchi, C.B. Bhartwal, Dhameja Alka, the World Bank Governance Report, also with Neeraja Gopal Jayal, who have been written about this governance process and things. So these are the books that I would recommend for the reference. These books are available in the market both online and offline. These books will help you to get a deeper understanding about the subject. So it's mandatory that when you buy these books, you will be able to refer not just from an exam standpoint, but also in terms of enhancing your knowledge. With this, I come to the end of the introduction session, where we have discussed about the syllabus, the internals, and about the books of reference and how the subject is going to be overall. In the upcoming sessions, we will be going right into the syllabus, starting from Unit 1 till the Unit 3, discussing about each and every topic in detail. I hope and believe that this journey is going to be about fun, learning, and discovering the new aspects of good governance in India. Thank you once again for joining me today on this wonderful session. Meet you in the next session. Until then, stay bright, stay enlightened, and stay always thirsty for knowledge. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity.